action. Thank you.
I call the honourable member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And Deputy Speaker, it's a privilege to be able to speak on this motion because, like many other Australians, I understand directly the consequences, the impact of aged care and making sure there's quality service provision, because we have all been in this situation and in this case with family members who need the support when they're no longer able to live independently, and we want them to be able to do so with dignity and security. It is disappointing, however, that it has, since the opposition claims to care so much about this issue, as the minister outlined, take 3 weeks to get to the point where they move a matter of public importance, because it was this government that established the Royal Commission, because we identified very clearly the concerns in the sector and the need to address these challenges if we want a sustainable system so that older Australians can live out their years with dignity and security and health and well-being as best possible. And there are shortcomings, and we know there are shortcomings. There are shortcomings not just the Royal Commission has identified, there are shortcomings in making sure that families are fully engaged in the care of their elderly parents and seniors. There are shortcomings where there has unfortunately been violence and abuse against some of the most vulnerable people within our community and those the least positioned to be able to call out and respond. But we also should not ignore the thousands of people who work in the sector every day, many of which, by the way, are members of unions allied to those on the other side of this chamber, who do an outstanding job in providing care and support to elderly Australians, and they deserve our thanks and our respect. And to those who manage aged care homes, and of course to those who build them and who are part of making sure there's enough supply in the system. But we've gone through a very difficult patch, not just because of the problems that have been identified because of the start of the Royal Commission, but also because of the direct consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. And like you, Deputy Speaker, I come from the great state of Victoria, and one of the tragedies of last year was that 95% of deaths in aged care occurred in our state as a result of COVID-19. And that was because of community transmission, which made its way into aged care homes. Now, the Royal Commission has rightly identified a number of challenges in the sector in making sure that people are able to go into aged care and get the touch they need, the sense of empathy and the support critically at their most vulnerable stage of life. The Morrison government has already delivered record investment across the aged care sector of $13.3 billion in 2012-13 and, of course, continues to grow thereafter. It's estimated that funding for aged care will grow to more than $27 billion by 2023-2024. That's on average $1.5 billion of extra support for older Australians each year over the forward estimates, a significant cash injection. But the member who spoke previously correctly identified, the member for Cooper correctly identified, that this is a discussion about responsibility. And it's about responsibility for everybody in the sector. It's a responsibility about children to their seniors and family members to their seniors, that they have an active role to support people in aged care and not simply to use as a vehicle to offload their elderly parents. Everybody has that responsibility. It's a discussion about responsibility in terms of the development of new home aged care homes and the capital responsibility and the capital contribution that needs to be made by individuals and by the private sector to invest in the growth of the aged care system. It's a discussion about responsibility to make sure that individuals take responsibility in the management and operation of these aged care homes so people get the best standard of care and, of course, for the support from the government as well. And it's also critical that government shares its responsibility in delivery of that care so that older Australians can go into aged care with confidence, particularly at the vulnerable stage where they're leaving their private home, often reluctantly, we need to acknowledge, so that they can go to a place they feel safe, feel secure, feel cared for, so that they can live out their lives with dignity and the support they critically need.